And now, live from the studios of Freedom's Phoenix, Ernest Hancock.
You stand in taint of high treason.
Against whom?
Against your king. Have you anything to say?
Never in my whole life did I swear allegiance to him.
It matters not. He is your king. Confess, and you may receive a quick death. Deny, and you must be purified by pain. Do you confess? Do you confess? Then on the morrow you shall receive your purification.
Yeah, now this is the attitude that's going to permeate young minds exposed to the idea that, hey man, I don't know that guy my allegiance. When did that happen? Do I own myself? Am I able to think? Is my mind mine? Is the body that contains and motivates my mind mine? Do I belong to me, or am I a subject to someone else? Oh, I got to kiss a ring? Really? Oh, how did you arrive at that? What logical process did you go through to get to that point? This is the impact. That's a scene from Braveheart. That's why I use movies a lot. It kind of encapsulates, a couple of scenes will encapsulate an entire concept of why they made it. And there's many of these in the book Atlas Shrugged. Now, Charles Goyette's joining me in studio today. We're going to talk about a lot of things, but the one thing I definitely wanted to talk to him about is the cultural impact that Atlas Shrugged has had over the years, the impact it had on him personally, and what he anticipates the role it'll play in the theater of American politics here. Charles, what do you think is going to happen?
Hey, Ernie, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Goethe, the great Renaissance man of German literature and the artist and statesman and stuff, said that everybody needs to read Cervantes' Don Quixote 3 times in their life. As a young person, in their middle age, and as an old person before they die. And every time you read it, you'll learn something new. You'll take away something completely different. And that's my experience with Atlas Shrugged. I read it first as a teenager. I've read it now in the middle of my life. And I suppose I'll read it. I'll struggle through it again sometime. In the twilight years. And I had a different reaction to it anytime. I'm not a Randian or an objectivist, although I agree with everything Michael Kielsky said. Of course, if the premise is you own yourself, you've got me there. I'm on board. But it's like that book that somebody wrote a long time ago said that it usually begins with Ayn Rand. The more people she's awakened, the more people she's made into individualists and libertarians and so on, the more people that she has peeled away from the subordination to the state, the better I like her. As for the movie and the impact, I'm not sure. It's a little early for me to say what kind of a job they've done with this, and I'll find out from you after you see it, whether they have, just...
You're not going to go open at night?
I have tickets to Stevie Nicks that night. And Rod Stewart.
She'll stand in front of the light and she wins.
She has that weird metallic voice. Yeah. So, but I'll see it eventually. But I'd like to hear from you or the people that go there. What it's like. But one thing too is that this is done sort of the way that Peter Jackson did the Ring movies. It's done in 3 parts, and it's going to be a long time. You probably know exactly, when the whole story will finally be put together, and the second part, the third part will come out. So, it may take a while for people to kind of, so they're set up in part 1, and then they kind of start to follow it in part 2 and stuff. But I'm not sure. I always have high hopes that people will see, there'll be a movie that'll open people's eyes and, that, it'll move them a lot and change things and win hearts and minds. And then, never really does. You're the only person I know besides, my own kids who really gets the thing, speaking of the Ring movies, who really knows, about the Ring of Power. The ring that Obama found, by the way, so that he could invade Libya.
I'll tell you what my experience has been. The exposure of the idea that you can put in visual and audio that makes a concept that I tell you what it was like. It was an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation that Picard trapped himself on a planet with another race. Even though they may have spoke English, they spoke in metaphor. They were just talking about, it's like what light through yon window breaks.
Yeah.
And what they were talking about is how do you communicate when you reference certain, it's like your book. We'll get into it.
He goes, Flinden and Wanton on the planet Shin. And that means something to him because it's a metaphor for something that happened historically.
And he sailed with sails unfurled, which means he died.
That was great.
Something.
That was a great episode.
So it was kind of this Shakespearean thing, and it really dovetails into what we'll talk about your book being translated, the Dollar Meltdown into Chinese. Yeah. Because the footnotes, they have to, you talk about Goldilocks or Scarlett O'Hara saying, if I think about that, I'll go crazy. I'll think it, twiddly-dee, I'll think about that tomorrow, know. So you do that, I'll think about that tomorrow as the Fed, kind of worrying about inflation later. And the Chinese editors, they have to explain what the heck is he talking about? Who's Goldilocks and what does Scarlett O'Hara have to do with it? So, that's the kind of shortcut that you can have a lot of times with a movie is because you have an entire encapsulation of it's not who wears the ring, it's the ring itself. It's the power itself. Eliminate this consolidation of power and you don't have a lot of these problems. So that's why I get so excited about having something that you can point to and you can just say one thing like, hey man, he took the red pill. And you know what that means. Mm-hmm. Matrix is government, it's control, that kind of thing. So that's why I'm so enthusiastic about the certain themes coming out in certain movies. This movie, I hope, and has the potential to have an entire concept that can be boiled down into 90 minutes. You copy the living snot and pirate that, somebody might do that. I would never do that. It'd be bad. The movie, and you start giving it to, junior high kids or high school kids or whatever. Once you do that infection of a young mind, how do you unlearn the truth? And that's the impact that I hope this has.
Well, I sure hope you're right. And I hope for the best. And I honestly, I haven't been able to tell from the trailers whether they've done a really credible job with the story, but I sure hope they have. And I guess from the little I know about the history of the thing, they must be devoted. They must be very, very devoted to the story. You've talked with the people. You tell me. I mean, they people that kind of get what they're doing, or they go, this book sold 50 million copies, build an audience. Let's make a movie about this.
Which is the attitude they should have had. This is the impression that I got behind the scenes. When they showed the trailer at CPAC, okay, I'm going, okay, so they actually freaking made the movie finally. Because we've been putting stuff on Freedom's Phoenix for years. They're going to start.
Angelina Jolie was going to be in it.
And Brad Pitt. And they had this, studio in this theater, and then they were going to lose the rights if they didn't start production. And then they went, yammer. Until they actually, you showed me something, I'm not getting all excited. Well, when they did the trailer, they actually have it in the can. I'm going, ooh, and it looks like it's, at least they had, the lens focused and the sound looked good. I'm going, all right. So it's high production value, mansions and trains and, nice artwork and special effects. I'm going, hey, man, they spent some money on this. Well, they didn't spend the money on the actors. They weren't big names and so on, but they did a quality job. And some of the people involved in the production of it, took roles in the movies. They wanted to get it made. So I'm going, it looks like I didn't have a problem with it. It looks like it'll be fun. Heck, Star Wars, nobody knew who the heck, Harrison Ford was. I mean, so this is, make stars of these people, I'm sure. So I'm going, all right, how come I haven't heard about this more? How come I got the this is the impression I got. And when we talk to people, hopefully we'll find out what really happened. That they anticipated studios would pick this up and do the big distribution themselves. They didn't, because there's people that don't want this movie to get exposed, and they had to count on the people in the internet, and I'm not sure they really knew how. That's where we came in. That's what we do. We'll talk about more when we come back here on Declare Your Independence with Charles Goyette.